All right, welcome back. And this is Mark with Realize the Self. In today's episode, we're going to talk about trauma and how we're programmed from early on to react subconsciously and have these energetic cords that attach to the traumas. And so, with the whole book, with the whole concept, how we're able to realize the self is we induce a stillness. And one of the ways to do that, one of the methods is you do forgiveness practice or you do letting go, which is the same concept. Just the forgiveness practice is a deeper way of letting go. And by letting go of all these energetic cords, you reach this level of stillness where your nervous system is really regulated and you feel like this calm and you're able to feel and sense the presence and the awareness within. So this is fascinating. From early on, we're basically programmed. We're born into this world programmable, and we're traumatized from early on, especially birth. That birthing process may be a traumatic experience purposely. So from a psychological perspective, we're not born traumatized, but we are born highly programmable. A newborn nervous system is extremely sensitive, dependent on caregivers for regulation, shaping itself through experience. And from the first 2 years of our life, we're in a delta brainwave state, highly suggestible, highly programmable. And even from like 2 to, is it 6 or 7, we're in theta. And still, it's like a hypnotic state. We're still super highly programmable. And then we go into alpha up till about 12. And from there, we're just programmable almost till we're teenagers. So it's very interesting how that works. So if early needs such as safety, attunement, touch, emotional mirroring are inconsistently met when we're babies, the newborn system adapts for survival. This adaptation can be trauma, and you could see this play out even with people today from being traumatized as babies. And with the forgiveness process, the letting go process, the release technique, all this stuff, you can let go of all these traumas. You can totally let go of all this. The sneaky part is most people don't know they're going on because they're going on under a conscious awareness. Trauma isn't just catastrophic news, it's chronic misattunement, emotional neglect, feeling unseen or unsafe, sudden shock without support. The infant brain wires itself around survival patterns, hypervigilance, people-pleasing, dissociation, emotional suppression. These patterns become our subconscious programming. Programmed from birth, biological, we're wired for attachment and belonging. That makes us programmable through family dynamics, cultural narratives, authority structures, reward punishment systems, because survival equals connection. We internalize whatever ensures attachment, even if it costs authenticity. So trauma is often not just an event, but a conditioning loop. A loop. If I act this way, I'll stay safe. If I act this way, I'll stay safe. If I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. And so over time, that loop becomes identity, and we keep replaying this same loop out from childhood to early on till later on till we die, basically, unless we break that loop. And so trauma, many traditions, trauma and karma, especially within Hindu and Buddhist philosophy, karma is referred to action and consequence, not punishment. And we're going to see how this trauma relates to karma. It's very interesting. Karma can be understood psychologically as repeated unconscious patterns, emotional reactions on autopilot. Emotional reactions on autopilot, habitual relational dynamics. And from this perspective, trauma creates reactive behavior. Reactive behavior creates consequences. Consequences reinforce the original wound. That cycle is karma in motion. You're not being cosmically punished, you're running unprocessed emotional imprints. Healing trauma interrupts karma because awareness stops unconscious repetition. And even with that, once you disidentify with the mind, the body, and the emotions, and you identify with the observer beyond, that is the only way to really sever the tie with karma, is knowing that there is no karma, that karma doesn't exist, that we don't exist. This world is a dream. We're in a dream as characters. So that's the ultimate way to transcend karma and reincarnation cycle. So now we're going to talk about trauma and loosh. The concept of loosh comes from Robert Monroe. Loosh, it sounds like almost like a conspiracy theory. It kind of is, but it kind of like ties into all this stuff too. Robert Monroe, he described loosh as emotional energy harvested from non-physical beings. In esoteric circles, loosh is often interpreted as emotional intensity, especially fear, pain, and suffering. Psychologically, without taking the literal harvesting idea, trauma does generate high emotional charge, reactive energy, and survival stress hormones. How about that? So, loosh and trauma are very similar. Unresolved trauma keeps people in a state of fear, conflict, scarcity, and drama cycles. If that loose or energy theory holds correct, then unresolved trauma is producing energy, or loose, however you want to look at it. So whether metaphysical or symbolic, trauma produces energy that keeps systems running, personal and societal systems. And then we turn to another interesting topic that, or correlation, or something that relates to all these as well. It's pendulums, the reality transurfing concept by Vadim Zeland in his book Reality Transurfing. So it's another way of looking at actually karma and energy production. So pendulums are collective thought structures, emotional fields fed by attention. Social, political, religious, and ideological systems, they gain strength from emotional charge, conflict, polarization. This is why equanimity, one of the four Brahma Viharas, this is why the ancient teachers tell you don't react. You're in the middle. There's no positive, there's no negative. You're not reacting, you're in the middle. You're not moving this pendulum or this teeter-totter or this pendulum back and forth. You're right in the middle, and this does not create karma when you don't react. When you know you're not the body, when you know you're not the mind, when you know you're not the emotions, you can just watch them go by like clouds in the sky, but you abide in the true self within. Okay, trauma makes people easier to hook in the pendulum. So they hook into you. So when you don't react, you have nothing for them to hook into you. You become empty. You become nothing. So there's nothing for them to hook into. And what trauma makes people easier to hook into pendulums, because there's a dysregulated nervous system that seeks certainty. There's wounded identities that seek belonging, and there's fear that seeks authority. Unhealed trauma fuels emotional reactivity. Emotional reactivity feeds pendulums. And there you have it. That's all interconnected, interrelated. It's quite fascinating. And so here's a synthesis. Early life nervous system adapts for survival. Adaptation becomes a trauma imprint. Trauma creates unconscious reactive patterns. Reactive patterns generate karmic cycles. Emotional charge feeds the collective systems of the pendulums. Those systems reinforce trauma narratives. It's a feedback loop between individual nervous system, collective structures, and emotional energy. You ever fly in an airplane, you look down and you look at the way cities are laid out, and you look at like a circuit where energy runs through, or electricity. They look very, very similar, and it got me wondering, and a lot of people wondering too, like maybe there's something to it. Maybe that this is it. Maybe it's the emotional energy. We're just a big giant circuit board on Earth that's feeding some system, and that's what it could very well possibly be. One of the theories, or the hypothesis, whatever you want to look at it, is that energy is running the system, whatever this simulation, whatever this dream creation is. Maybe it's an AI system, but whatever it is, it's being fed by that emotional energy. And there was one more thing I was going to say, but I can't remember right now. Okay, are we programmed to have trauma? Not really, but we're born vulnerable. Like I said, in those brainwave states, we're born. Oh, before I forget, trauma not necessarily have to be created when we're children. It could be created anytime we have a heightened emotional reaction to anything in life, even in our later years. So the thing that happened back in 2020 was a huge global traumatic event that caused, a lot of trauma for people, and there's still people that are traumatized to this day. But it all may be done purposely and, intentionally. So we just don't know, with this weird world we're living in right now, what's going on. And the future, if you look at it from this perspective, the future is going to be traumatic for people that don't know who they are. But when we do realize who we are, it won't be traumatic. We could just ride it like the ocean wave, or through like the ocean, river in water. Like we're in water in a river, and we just go with it. But if you resist and you grab onto these emotions, you're like causing yourself a lot of pain and suffering, and you don't really need to. This is why I created this channel. I created the book to help with people to realize who they are, to help overcome these, because we're not out of the water yet. We're not out of the woods. We got a lot of things down the line. We are in the beginning of AI. That's a whole nother video. We could do hours on that, but this is the start of something pretty wild. We're in possibly the singularity now, according to Musk and other people that are talking about this stuff. And this, what's going to be happening in the years ahead, is actually going to blow all our minds. None of us has ever seen this ever. I don't think the world, at least that we know of, has ever seen what's coming up with AI technology and robotics and all these incredible changes that are going to be helpful, beneficial, as well as not beneficial. So there's always, a positive and negative aspect. But with self-realization, there's neither positive nor negative. You're just in the self. You're just always abiding in that presence of peace, serenity, happiness, love, and that's our true nature. That there's an exit path from both psychologically and spiritually. The way out looks similar: nervous system regulation, shadow integration, emotional processing, conscious response instead of reaction, reducing emotional excess, less polarity, less drama, finding out who we are with self-inquiry and the methods that we talk about. When trauma is metabolized, karma softens, pendulums lose grip, emotional energy stabilizes, identity becomes less reactive, and you move from survival programming to conscious authorship. And yeah, we talked about all the stuff we needed to talk about. I don't think there's much more we need to talk about, but the way out of karma, the way out of loosh, the way out of pendulums, the way out of all this is to not react, to identify with our true self, the observer, the witness, the eternal self. That's the only thing that's real, and that is us. That's the true self. We reside right here in the cave center of the heart, approximately the size of a nanometer, or 1/10,000th the size of a hair strand, and that's directly from the Upanishads. And so that equates to about a nanometer, give or take. I don't know the exact, but I just did a quick search on that, and yeah, it's quite fascinating. But in this one dot, we just talked about the Bindu meditation. That's a great meditation to do. Just focus on that spot right there, and in that is infinity. That's who we are. When you realize this light that we have here, this small, minute strand of infinity, this little bit is everything. And if this is who we are, we're everything. We're infinity. There's nothing more powerful. There's nothing more. This is everything. This is who we are. This is what I'm trying to explain. This is beyond the mind. The thing is, if you identify with the mind, you're disconnected from this. When we disconnect from the mind, we reconnect with this. Let me say this one more time. When we're connected to the mind, we're disconnected from this. When we disconnect from the mind, we reconnect with our true self. And that is it. That's it. You guys got it? All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for being here.